Mill is angry kids ate groceries. I have 3 kids ages 12, 8, and 4. They are good, healthy children, that do well in school. They also love their paternal grandma very much. My Mill came down this month to spend the holidays with the family. She lives far so we don't see her often. We have a big home so I sat her up a nice room in the house. Shortly after she arrived she offered me her food card. I declined several times as my family doesn't need assistance with food. I thought she should keep it. However, she insisted and said she wanted to buy treats for the kids and that it was Christmas after all. Fast forward to last weekend and I came home from work.
The kids all rushed me and asked if we could have family movie night and watch Home Alone and drink hot cocoa. I thought it was a great idea and agreed. I told them to start making their drinks while I changed. In the other room I overheard their grandma come into the room and start scolding them. She said, "I knew you all would do this. You've really started something, you know that. I'm never buying that cocoa again." Shocked, I came out of my room and said, "You know what? Don't worry about it. I will replace it in the morning." She rolled her eyes and went to her room. The next morning I went to the grocery store before work and bought a bunch of snacks and her replaced the hot chocolate. I then instructed my children to only eat what I bought and went to work.
Around lunchtime I started getting texts from my kids that their grandma wouldn't let them eat the food. They told me they let her know I bought them the food and that her reply was actually, "I really bought it because it was my food card." She went further to tell them that they act like they have to eat all the time. At this point I called her and let her know I did not use her food card and that if she didn't want the kids to eat what she bought that she should bring it into her room and also not buy them any more food. She hung up on me. Afterwards I started getting messages from my kids that they were scared, and that their grandma was slamming doors and yelling that she is never coming back to our house again. The kids were crying at this point and scared of what their grandma would do.
I had my husband call his mother. I'd quit always said, but when I got home she wouldn't look at me, let alone speak to me. I want her to go home. I'd buy the ticket. I don't trust her around my kids while I'm at work. She chose to take this issue about food out on the children without even having spoke a word to me. I'm not sure if I would have even discovered it if I hadn't accidentally overheard her berating my kids. My husband wants me to let it go, but I feel like something is very wrong with this situation.
She sounds mentally unwell? Very bizarre behavior. I don't think you should leave. The children are home alone with her. Perhaps she is suffering from early onset dementia or Alzheimer's. I don't think I've ever heard of a grandparent stopping children from eating food. If anything, grandparents usually try to stuff children till they explode. Question about your husband op. What does he means by letting this go? Does it means he wants to be the one to handle this? Or does it means everyone avoiding the subject until she leaves and keeping the kids separate from her until then? Who would care for the children while you are at work if Mill was not there? Would there be a nanny or another form of childcare in place? My dad grew up with food scarcity and it really manifested obviously during my childhood when he earned enough to afford lots of food. We'd buy groceries until you couldn't see the back of the fridge. But then you weren't really allowed to eat much of it at all. He would come home from work and keep track of any missing food items, like literally counted granola bars and checked on slices of bread, cheese, meats, etc. I got screamed at for eating a handful of hickory sticks that I ate once after school. Still can't go near them, frowning face. I'm in therapy for all this. Don't worry. Is your Mill from a Slavic country by any chance? The Balkans or generally former Yugoslavia? She sounds like the right age to have been mucked up by the war. That's for sure the reason my dad, and his mother too, who lived with us, is so angry and strange about food.
P.S. It gave me a wicked eating disorder as a result. I'd try to keep your kids away from her when it comes to food stuff if you can.
You need to have a serious discussion with your husband about his mother. He needs to be handling this better. This is his mom and his responsibility. He needs to send his mother home if she can't act like a regular grandma around your kids. Instead of scaring them, tell him that it's clear she has issues. But it's not okay if those issues damage your children. Ask him what makes it okay for your mill to tell your kids they cannot eat. At their ages, kids are pretty much bottomless pits. Seriously. And slamming around and screaming? How is that okay at all? She came for the holiday and is making what should be a fun time of year into something uncomfortable and unhappy. How is that something he thinks you should just ignore? Why is she home alone with the kids? Is that the reason for her visit? To babysit over winter break? She's got a mental illness. She's a hoarder. Her behavior makes sense. She may have grown up with food scarcity. That can cause people to be weird and controlling about food. I wouldn't kick her out per se, but I wouldn't leave her alone with the kids either. So, she wanted to buy the kids snacks but didn't want them to actually eat, drink, enjoy them? What did she want then to do? Ration them? She should go home. You don't get to stay under my roof and snub me. Instead of enjoying her visit, she's bringing nothing but drama and pettiness. What a shame your kids will have that memory of her rather than a pleasant one. If your husband won't cut the visit short, at a minimum she needs to be told she's either nice to the kids or she can stay in her room. What and how much they eat isn't her concern. I'm getting really tired of post after post where the husband sides with his mother instead of his wife. I would insist she leave. Scaring her grandkids? Your husband needs to deal with her appropriately, including sending her back home if you don't want her there, or if she isn't behaving well, or if she is going crazy with the children. That's all. She's giving your kids an unhealthy relationship with food. Tell her sorry, but she needs to GTFO of your home. BC, your children are now scared of her. Why would she even offer her food card? To me it sounds like it was a power move to exert her non-existent control over your family. Your husband or you need to kick her out. She shouldn't act like that around her grandchildren. Mill, it is clear from this visit that you do not care for the way we allow our children to eat. So you decided to insist I use your food card when I repeatedly declined. Also that you could gain some measure of authority over what they ate. Your message has been received, loud and clear, but we do not agree with you, and will not be changing how our children eat. We have donated all the food we bought with your card to a local food bank. They thank you for your donation. It is time to accept that we do things differently from you. Or you should investigate an early return trip home. It isn't what your son prefers. But we do not wish for this inappropriate outburst and subsequent pouting to permanently damage your relationship with your grandchildren. My paternal grandmother came to live with us one summer to watch us while my mom and dad worked. She wasn't overtly mean to us kids like your mill, but every day she would literally run out of the house when she would see my dad coming up the driveway to tell him how lazy I was all day. I played with and supervised my younger brother and sister, ages 5 and 3, in our kiddie pool for hours on end, rode bikes with them in our long driveway, mowed the lawn and was responsible for watering, weeding and picking vegetables from our 3-acre garden. I was only 9 years old. All she had to do was fix us a sandwich for lunch and watch daytime TV. But somehow I was lazy. Grandma was never invited back after that summer. Thank God. You need to kick her out immediately. She sounds psychologically unwell. I wouldn't want someone like that around my kids. Glad they have a way to communicate with you when you're not home. I'd send your husband an article or two about the long-term effects of food shaming a child. My parents would berate me for telling them I was hungry and I have a weird relationship with food. To this day, I understand you've said it's more about control than the actual food, but it's impacting your kids in a negative way nonetheless. Something is very wrong. Family issues are tough. And so it's very hard for me to vilify your husband in this, as we don't know what he and his mom talked about. He may just be asking you to let it go to keep the peace. Which I don't believe is the correct move, as he just wants to have his mom around for the holidays. I'm on your side in this. I think your mill is going too far. I strongly recommend that you find out what your husband said to her, and explain to him that whatever he said has now made her mad at you. I think your husband needs to understand what's been happening and be brought the realization that his mom is in the wrong, and that boundaries need to be established. Also, just to cover all the bases, does his mom suffer from any mental disability? This comment section is kind of wild to me. The way people are desperate to come up with excuses for her behavior. But Op has known this woman for over a decade, and she's stayed with them before and had many interactions with the kids and has never seen this behavior. If she had food insecurity or this was tied into her hoarding behavior, there would have been signs far earlier. Op wouldn't be so shocked by her behavior if this was the norm for her. Even if she had issues that were out of her control, her behavior is her own responsibility. She was the one offering food in her food cart and then resorting to slamming doors, screaming, and getting into a power struggle with her own grandkids over food. Absolutely none of that is acceptable. This can't get swept under the rug, but you also don't have to serve her an eviction notice right away. First order of business is she has lost the privilege, at least for now, of being alone with her grandkids, full stop. Second thing is you and your husband both need to sit down and talk with her. You must be a united front on this and explain why her behavior was unacceptable. Listen to what she says. Does she seem unwell and unlike herself? This could be the onset of dementia or another health issue. Sometimes older people get UTIs and it really messes with their personalities. Is she willing to get a checkup for the sake and safety of your children? Or it's possible you've just seen the true her and now that she feels comfortable she's taking her mask off. Honestly, this post reminded me of my own nasty, evil paternal grandmother. What was she like as a parent? If she's remorseful, willing to see a doctor, and willing to accept that she won't be alone with the children due to her actions, then I don't think you need to kick her out. If she doubles down, throws another tantrum, or refuses to respect your rules, then she needs to leave. Good luck, Op. Do not leave your kids alone with her. Your husband problem is bigger than your mill problem. What do the kids think, that their dad doesn't care, that they're scared? Why isn't he trying to protect them? I would be far more concerned about that. Your husband wants you to let go of a situation where his mother verbally abused your children and made them scared for their safety. Read that again. You're way underreacting. No more unsupervised time with Granny. And she needs to decamp your house immediately. Your children need emotional support to process what Grandma did and to firmly understand that it was not okay, and that you and your husband will always act decisively to protect them from abuse. My dad did something similar. He was unwell most of my life and scared for financial reasons all the time. He would overly encourage us to eat snacks, but if they were finished he'd be very upset. I understand it better now. Because he was unable to control his life and he sought it in other ways. His trying to be generous would backfire when he got anxious that he could not provide enough. It's heartbreaking, really. Think of her like a dragon guarding her hoard. Even though you purchased the groceries, she's essentially using your house, her current abode, as her new den. So any food you bring in, no matter if you buy it with your own money or use her food card, becomes part of her hoard. If your husband is insistent on her staying, then take steps to safeguard your children in their interactions with her hoarding tendencies. Maybe storage containers they can keep separate in their rooms until she leaves, or maybe a container for her stuff in her room. I'm guessing this is the first time that she's ever reacted as she did, and thus why you weren't originally worried about the kids being with her alone at home. But now that you know, you can take steps to make sure they aren't alone. I wish you good luck, Op. I read some of your comments that she is more likely to have some kind of hoarding issue than be suffering from dementia. My thought, as a random stranger on the internet, is that she might have trauma around food poverty and is trying to deal with that. To be totally transparent with you, I don't think she's leaving your house before Christmas. Your husband seems to be used to this kind of behavior and is always going to be confused why you and the kids are making a big deal. Remember, he came from her house. So he's always going to be desensitized to her outbursts because he heard them as a kid. My suggestion is to figure out what she's actually upset about and what she wants. Give it to her to make peace. Then have a serious discussion with your husband after the holidays. If you think she wants to be the big food spender for Christmas, buy some premium items and say you used the card. The kids can eat your normal groceries throughout the week. But for Christmas, as a treat, we're going to have Grandma's super premium hot cocoa and candy, etc. Make a point to frequently say things like, "Grandma bought us really nice cocoa. I'm so excited for Christmas." Stroke her ego. Let her feel like the big food spender. Whatever to keep the peace. If you think she just wants to see the food and know it's there, fill a cabinet and make that the food storage cabinet. Tell the kids not to eat from it. Open it often and say, "It was so nice of you, Mill, to help us with all this food. We'll be set for weeks." Talk about how you don't have to worry about feeding the kids and you're so lucky often. Let her feel like she's the one that got you well fed this Christmas, even if that's not what happened. If you think it's the kids taking willy-nilly from the stores, make them set lunches and snacks she can pass out. It's silly, especially with a 12-year-old who can get a snack on their own. But she may feel like the kids are pigging out without you around. You making specific meals might click in her brain so that she understands that food is for them, and they're not eating you out of house and home. The only thing I wouldn't suggest is having the kids eat secretly and/or letting Mill call them fat, greedy, pudgy. Kids need to be able to eat freely and happily, and telling them to hide their eating from Grandma, or allowing Grandma to attack their bodies, is a horrible recipe for future eating disorders and self-confidence issues. She's gotta be okay with seeing the children eat, and she can't call them greedy, fat, etc. while watching. If she's going to do that, you need your husband to have a serious talk with her. I hope all of that helps. Good luck.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.